In this day and age, it is really, really difficult to imagine that there are still some people who still think that Africa is a country. Actually, this today's show is inspired by a video that I saw on YouTube. And this young man, an African American, had gone to somewhere in Africa. He went to Senegal. I think it was Senegal that he went to. And he went about asking people questions. He didn't quite realize, he wasn't quite knowledgeable about the question that he was asking because he hadn't done his research. So let me repeat it one more time, and I'm sure I will have to do so in the course of this entire show. Africa is not a country. Africa is an entire continent made up of about 54 different countries, and in each of those countries, the people that live in those countries have their own languages. They have similar languages, of course, but they have their own languages, different cultures. In fact, in Nigeria, for instance, you can get close to about 350 different dialects in that one country alone, and it is estimated that Africa has over 2,000 different languages spoken within that continent. And that's the one reason why I find it super amazing, even today, that someone would go to the continent of Africa and expect that everybody's speaking the same language just because they are black people living there. So therefore, they must be the same all over the continent. And with that, I pivot to what brings me here today. It is the issue of a big word, a word that has been making its rounds since the early 70s or late 70s. And it is that word which is called Akata. I have seen different videos about people complaining about that one word. Different, mostly African Americans complain about that word, that the use of that word and what it actually means. I decided not to touch on it. I decided to just skip it and go through that. It's something that will probably fade away at some point, but I saw that recently. And the example I had given earlier was about the young man that had gone to Senegal that was asking Senegalese and Gambians about if they've ever heard that word being used as a denigration of African Americans. Now, the answer that he got was very, very telling. The people of the Gambia don't know what it's about. They don't know what it means. They probably never even heard of it before. Now, before we delve deep into this word and its meaning and how it affects different people, different Africans all over the world, especially the African Americans who feel slighted by the fact that they are called that, they maybe think that they are called that. Before we dig into that, if you're just joining us, this is the Afrobeat Cult, and it's the channel where we try to highlight and talk about things that relate to Africans and people of African descent. We're talking about their culture, we're talking about the lifestyle, the music, entertainment, so much more. And please, if you have not subscribed, please do so. Hit that subscribe button down below, and of course hit the like button, and continue to help us grow. One fact is clear, though, that it is a Yoruba word. It is from Western Nigeria. The Yorubas use that word. It comes from that culture, that part of Nigeria. It's not a direct reference to African Americans per se. It is mostly used by the Yoruba people to describe their own people who have seemingly lost the values within their own culture. For instance, you can't go to an elder and yell at that person like it's done in the West, or you can't go and give an elderly person something with your left hand. That is totally frowned upon. Issues like that. Now, when you bring those values back home, then you're also referred to as an Akata. Kneeling is also a very, very important part of the Yoruba culture. Kneeling down before the elders or prostrating before the elders is a sign of respect. Now, a lot of children that are born outside Nigeria don't realize that, or their parents don't teach them those kind of values. And when they come back home or go back home to the country and they're standing in front of an elderly person, maybe their grandfather or grand auntie or somebody who is much older than they are, and if they don't kneel down before that person, or they don't prostrate before that person, or they stretch out their hand to give a handshake, then that is really frowned upon. And in most cases, those children or those young people are referred to as Akata. Well, those are just a few of the fine points about why, or the kind of people that are called that. I too have been called that in the past because I had lived outside Nigeria for a while, and I kind of lost a few of those traditional values that I grew up knowing because I was quite young when I left Nigeria, and I went back home and I didn't seem to be able to remember all those things that I had learned when I was young. So I was referred to as Akata. So it has nothing to do with you being like they have often said, that it refers to slavery or cotton picking and all those kind of things. I know that sometimes a lot of African Americans think that they're referring to them, calling them that naughty term, African booty scratcher. Actually, it was the African Americans that came up with that, calling the Africans that name way back in the 70s, I think. This is the Afrobeat Cult, and on today's show we're taking a look, just a brief glance over that word Akata. I won't go deep into it. I will leave a few links of some deeper videos or people that have done more research about that so that you can see for yourself and determine for yourself and make up your own mind if you think it is derogatory and if it's something that you don't like. So I too did a little bit of a deep dive to find out where this whole issue started from, or where we can pinpoint a part of it, and this is what I found out. Check this out.
It won't work. We can't work with Akata.
Akata. What is this Akata shit? Like American? Oh shit. Cotton picker.
So there you go. Sugar Hill was a movie that was quite popular between 1993 and 1994. It was directed by Leon Icaso, I hope I got that right, some Cuban American, and written by Barry Michael Cooper. This whole issue also pinpoints the fact that maybe on this channel we need to refocus and re-educate people about the culture, the African culture, give more exposure, talk about it more, about things that people maybe don't really understand, might have heard somewhere, might have experienced somehow, and did not actually reflect the true meaning of what they were facing. It's a bit odd also that a lot of African Americans are taking it personally because in the 70s and late 60s, when Africans started moving a lot towards settling in the West, settling in the US, African Americans that lived around that period were also very, very hostile to Africans that had just recently left their countries because of civil war, because of the government that existed then, the military government and all those kind of things, the unsettled African states by then. A lot of Africans moved to the US to go to school. So African Americans at that point actually turned against their African brothers that came. Instead of using that opportunity to learn from them, learn the culture from them, they turned against them. They called them African booty scratchers. They called them, the movie Roots was very popular at that time. A lot of them referred to them as Kunta Kinte. And so you have it, a total turnaround from what it used to be. And the reason why I brought it up is that I found out that it is still causing quite a lot of heat even till today. There is no way that our fellow Africans, fellow African Americans, our brothers and sisters who live in the US, for instance, there's no way we want to deliberately denigrate your position in the world or bring you down and pinpoint things that you have had to go through all this while, all these years, and then your own fellow brothers and sisters will be the ones bringing you down. I don't think that's the idea behind it. And my final point is this: if you still think that Akata means something bad in your opinion, well, that's your opinion, all fair and good. At least I try to explain to you today that that is not what it really means, at least from my own perspective, from my own experience. I have been called that too, so I would generally just brush it aside. It doesn't really mean what you think it does. It only means that, you have a different culture, you have a different mindset at this point in time, different from what your grandparents used to have. The traditional beliefs have been washed away, and this is the new you, so to speak. I personally don't think that just this one video will solve all the problems or erase the belief system that you already have relating to that word Akata. Probably won't, and it might take another generation of Africans to try to convince our fellow African American brothers and sisters that it doesn't really mean, it's not a negative terminology to mean that you are an enslaved people. I just feel that I should add my own little voice to this big issue, and tell you that it's no big deal. It's not a bad word in that way. And on that note, I say thank you very much for being a part of today's show. Remember, subscribe, hit that like button, continue to share our content. Until next time, see you guys. Bye.